Today we have myself as always, Todd, Justin, Keith, and some other members from our team here. And I just want to go over some basics as always. We're going to try to keep this to be talking about Quickbase add-ons. If you can, just keep things orderly. Please try to raise your hand using the Zoom reactions. That would be great just to keep a line. Questions, try to keep to 5 to 7 to 10 minutes if more in depth. And this session will be on YouTube after the fact. You could always come back. Justin does a great job of highlighting the minute markers of when we talk about certain topics. So we could always go through that. As always, we want to hand it to the clients first before we get into our topic of the week. Does anyone have any questions before we get started? And again, we do always like to do open forum first. This time is for you guys. We'd rather get your questions the whole time before our topic, but if not, easy file importer will be next.
Again, questions can be on any add-on. It doesn't have to be easy file importer. So if you have any add-on related question, feel free to raise your hand and we'll do our best to answer.
Yep. And for those who might be a little introverted, feel free to put your question in the chat. We'd be happy to answer it that way as well. And if not, and if you think of one after the fact, we could always jump back to your question. But seemingly so, I think we might want to head towards easy file importer.
We have a question.
All right, hands up. Mike, you have the floor.
Hey, Matthew, how's it going?
Doing well, how are you?
Good. Yeah, so we're looking to still get this PDF merger tool spun up. So I think we're just running into some challenges with getting the trigger notification out.
Right. So, I think one of the things we left off on was adding yourself to the email notification, which you were receiving.
Yep.
The odd part is, and I think Manal is in here, is we did run this locally successfully.
Right. And I did see that merged file in there. So it does seem like it's just getting the message, the email out to Juiced.
Right. So at this point, unless you'd want to share those query parameters, those like just that PDF merger arguments, I'm not too sure because if we wouldn't have been able to run it locally, we would have found the issue.
Are you able to determine if the email is showing up?
I personally am not. I would have to defer that to someone else. Keith, would you be able to maybe?
Well, Mike, you can always. Well, Manal's going to jump in here in a second, but you can always copy Matthew on the email notification as well, just to make sure that we're receiving it to the Juice Tech domain. But Manal, did you see the email come in?
No, I haven't looked at his. So he's still having issues, Matthew? I thought that we resolved and.
We were able to run this locally. He did see the file.
Locally, I just sent out an email with these parameters and it worked fine. I didn't even run locally from my project. I just sent out an email to PDF merger. So we are not able to receive an email notification from his Quickbase application.
That is not 100% confirmed. That is possible is one of the things.
Hey, Mike, what Manal did was she just sent an email directly to that same email address that the notification is set up to. Could you do the same thing from your email address? So copy your parameters, just create a new email, copy your parameters and send it to that PDF merger email address and see if that runs.
And Mike, I just put that in the Zoom chat for you to send it to if you'd like, just in case.
So send it from my own work email.
Exactly, from your own email address. Yep, just send a new email and put your parameters in the message body. You could put anything in it. You could just put maybe test PDF merger or something in the subject. It doesn't matter.
Okay, and the email address to send it to is pdfmerger@pdfmerger.quickbasetools.com.
Correct.
Yep, I threw it in the chat also, Mike, so you could.
Okay.
There.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll try that right now and report back.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
All right. Good question there. I know we had some arrivals while we were talking. So just a reminder, this is open forum. If anyone would like to ask any questions about any of our add-ons, not just Easy File Importer, please feel free to raise your hand and talk now. If not, we're gonna allow Todd to get started and go forward with our Easy File Importer Part 1.
Okay, thanks, Matthew. All right, so what I'd like to do today is take you through, as Matthew mentioned, our topic being one of our add-ons that can be used to upload data into your Quickbase application. Let me share my screen. All right, so my sharing, Matthew, am I sharing my
Do not see it yet.
Not yet.
let's see. How's that?
That's
Better?
good.
All
Yep.
right, good. So this is our landing page on the website for Easy File Importer. And, you know, as it mentions here, we can easily turn an Excel spreadsheet into a Quickbase table. So, and actually, and you can actually create multiple, you can use to create multiple tables in your Quickbase app. And I'll explain that in a little bit. So what I'd like to do is just kind of give you a high level, some of the benefits that we think are some benefits of using the add-on in your Quickbase application. And then I'll take you through an installation, show you how it installs, because it's real easy. It's really easy to stand up. And then I'll also take you through a sample where I set up all the records needed inside your application to get this configured. So, and again, very straightforward. It shouldn't take me long at all. And I just want to kind of illustrate and show you how, you know, this add-on can be used. So why we created this add-on is basically to replace the import Quickbase functionality. You know, to us, it leaves a lot to be desired, especially when you have to map fields and that kind of thing. So, and then we also wanted to create something that was do it yourself from a user's perspective. So easily create a sample. You know, if someone has an Excel sheet and they need to pump data into a table or multiple tables, you know, an easy way for that end user to go in without having to use pipelines, go in, configure, map things, which I'll show you today, and get this thing set up so that it can easily import into one or many tables. And it will, just like the Quickbase import, it will do update in place and add new records, obviously if records don't exist. So, and so it's very easy to use in that, like I mentioned, you simply add a file to a record in a table and into a file attachment field, and this process takes off and does the importation. So, and again, I'll illustrate that today. And then you can actually, we have a customer who actually fully automated a process where they get an email, the email comes in, it goes right into a table and as a file attachment, it kicks off the process, and then all their data is imported for the morning. So it's an overnight process that they run. So you can do some real interesting things with combination of maybe another add-on that we have, our email parser, and the Easy File Importer. The other nice thing is that we have a run details table, and again, I'll illustrate that. So you could get all the logging you need, you know, what happened, the process ran, did it run successfully, where did it error, stuff like that, and that'll all be contained right in your application. One term that we like to use, and it's actually on the website, is set it and forget it. So, you know, once you configure your mappings, if you will, for the Excel sheet to go to one or many tables, it's done one time, set up, you're good to go. And then if you ever have to modify it, obviously, sometimes Excel files change, columns are added, new data columns, etc. It's easy to go right in. And again, I'm going to show you that into a field mappings table, which you can actually see right here in our illustration on the website, and quickly add that new mapping. And the other thing too, the other flexible thing about what we have with our add-on is sometimes Excel files are more complicated than sort of a standard straight header and multiple rows. Sometimes there's an offset, the data starts down on row 23 and goes to the rest of the Excel sheet. Well, our configuration will allow you to handle that. And again, and the last thing, and I think I mentioned it, many tabs in an Excel sheet can go to many tables in Quickbase, all with one click. All right, so I want to take you through an installation first. So just to kind of take it from the top. So if you're familiar with our cloud, Matthew, I'm good, right? You can see the cloud.
Good to
Yep.
go.
So I'm gonna log into the cloud, Juice Cloud. All right. I'm gonna log in, and I'm just gonna choose our account. All right. And so here's our home dashboard, right? Easy file importer. Obviously this is our account, so everything is active. If it's not active in your particular cloud account, you can always enable start a trial. Just like we have here, you can start a trial. Easy file importer, you can start a trial, and you'll get a similar looking dashboard for the easy file importer. And what I'm going to do is I created by the way, let me just show you. I created a very simple app right here. One table, assets. We're going to be pumping in computer assets, devices, etc., into our table. So just so it doesn't get confused with many tables in the app, because I want to show you what happens after I do the installation, because we add a few tables to the app. All right, so I'm going to authorize this app that I just created. All right, and I'm going to use a user token. All right, so the user token for that particular app, where it'll actually show me, I can select my app. It's called Simple Asset Tracker Install. I'll choose my app. Okay, and then next, it'll actually prompt me for an import file table. So this will be the table where you'll actually add your file to that will be imported. And again, we'll show you this. I'm going to just say create new because I have a brand new application I'm going to be setting up this first time. So create new table and finish. So after the process runs, I'm going to pop back to the app and we'll see, and I'll just take you through what happened. Actually, our splash screen will tell you once this is done, it actually tells you what happened. It says that your app has been set up and these are the tables that you can find, you'll be able to find inside the app, and I'll go through them. And you can actually even go to the app, but I have it already right here in view. So now you see there's my assets table, which I started with. And now here are the tables that get installed inside the app. Okay, so configuration groups, the first table, this is the control table, very high level over. This is where you'll actually manage everything. You'll manage what files you're going to be importing and what configurations, meaning when I have a file, how do I tell Quickbase what columns go where and what mappings, what fields, etc. And I'll take you through that. So the configuration groups pulls together the import files table, which is right here, and then the import configurations table. So import files, what file am I going to use to import? Import configurations, what's the target table? What fields am I going to be importing to, etc. Field mappings and the like. And actually, the field mappings table is a subordinate table to the import configurations right here. And then there's a run details table. What happened after I did my import? What occurred? What the logging that goes on? To check if it was successful. or not, and how many records we processed. So now I'm going to show you quick. So now I'm going to set up a configuration run. Okay, so this is the spreadsheet of assets that I'm going to be pumping into my assets table. They're categorized, obviously a bunch of different fields. I have an asset ID number, and this actually is the key to my table, which is kind of cool because when I do the import, if this is being the key field, if I import it 3 times, it'll update 3 times, right? It's not going to add, 28 records over and over again, right? So that's kind of the nice thing about this scenario I have here. So, all right, so now let's go. I created another app that already kind of reconfigured things as far as forms are concerned. So I just wanted to, I'm going to take us there. So configuration group, I'm going to add a configuration group, and we're just going to call this import assets, import asset file. Okay, so now that's my configuration group. That's the first table, right? Now I will, because like I said, this is a control table, I'll add a configuration, right? So an import configuration says, okay, here's some data to enter, right? So type, I'm gonna call this my assets, Excel file, Excel file import, right? Okay, and then the table name is my assets, and again, that's free form. The table DBID, all right, so it's BSQ, the table DBID of my assets table right here, BSQ FNWIDX.
Hey, Todd, can you just
Yeah.
show people, just in case they don't know, that string in the URL where they can get that, just in case they weren't aware? It's right next to in the juicedtech.quickbase.com/db/
You typed it wrong, Todd, too. It's not FN, it's FP.
The assets
No,
table
is it?
is FNWID.
Okay.
Yeah. So Matthew, what were you saying?
Just right in the URL at the top, you can see after quickbase.com/db/, just so people know where you're getting that from.
Well, actually, I'm not getting it from here.
I know not here, but that's where you get it in the assets. If you right click, open a new tab even.
Okay. Oops. So here's the assets table right here. So the DB ID that Matthew is referring to is right here.
Yep.
Right. So that was this table here. I'm just going to close that. Okay. All right. So that's what I took. That's the table DBID. And my file that I'm going to bring in to this configuration does have a header row. So and the header row number is number 1. Right. And so I'm going to map my Excel file by column letter. Now I could do it either by column name. So the cool thing is, you could have column names. They could be, you can have, using column name, it can be any order as far as columns in the Excel sheet, right? So our process will find that column and use that by name, right? But I'm going to just use letter because it's easier, right? So A, B, C, D, column A, column B from Excel, right? If I bring this over again, so column A, B, C, D, etc., right, from the Excel sheet. All right, now sheet number, and the sheet number is number 1, right? Because as I mentioned before, you can actually have multiple sheets and refer to them by number, sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. Now here's a date. So when the import occurs, we can tag each record with a date. It's optional, but I'm gonna do that. So that field ID is 1030 in my table. And then we can also have a reference to the import file that we're using. To be tagged at the asset record level. So it's handy, it's not necessary, but it's handy to know, hey, this record came in from what file? All right, so that's why we do that. And I'm gonna just save this, and there's another tab here. I'm not gonna go into the bottom half just yet. It's not necessary. It's an option for searching capability. So I'm gonna go to tab 2, data row offset. As I mentioned before, sometimes you have Excel sheets where the data starts, 10 rows down or 20 rows down. You can actually say, yeah, start at row 20. If you can reference rows inside the sheet, or starting row inside the sheet. Mine starts at the top after the header row, so it's not necessary to do anything here, which is probably the norm, which is probably typical. Then I'm going to set up my field mappings now, right? So I entered, where's the data going? The assets table, we got field, we're going to map fields by column, letter, that kind of thing. So this tab now says, okay, tell me where column A is going as far as field ID is concerned. So column A is going to go to one of my fields, field ID 2016. So I'm just going to take a little bit of time here just to type in. I got a few columns to put in. So column B is going 1004. Column C is going to 1005. Column D is going to 1020. Column E, 1010. Column F, 106. This is probably the more time-consuming part of this, just mapping all your columns. I probably should have had this done prior, but I wanted to take you through right from the top. So column I, 1011. And I think I only have a few more. J is 107. K, 13. L, 1026. And M, 108. Okay, so now I believe I have everything. I save and close. And all those, if we look at the mappings here, so again, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. Okay, so I have all my columns in my spreadsheet, right? A through M, which is what I have, all my data, which I showed you in the spreadsheet. And these are all the field IDs that all the data should go to. Okay, so that's pretty much from a configuration. I'm done there, right? So if I go back to my configuration group record, so I have my configuration mapping. Now all I have to do is add my file, and it should take off from here, because once you add a file, it'll go and, well, actually, no, it won't. No, it won't, because I didn't, one other step. So let me add my file just so you can see it. Okay, so there's my file. So now I got my configuration in my file. The only other thing I have to do is, for our process to run, we have to message it. We have to send it an email notification and say, hey, I just added a file to import files. So kick off our easy file importer process. So I'm going to go to the import files table, right? And I'm going to do a new notification. Okay, so I'm going to do a new notification, and it's open, and I'm going to just call it easy file importer. Easy file importer. Notify. And we actually have an address, an email address. Let me just, I think I copied that. Maybe I didn't. Easy file importer. This will all be in the help for how to configure this and how to set up the notification. Easy file importer, mail.quickbase, and we want to do if a file is added, a record is added or modified on that import files table. And custom message says this is easy file. see. And we're going to throw a field on here, right? So I'm going to explain this in a second. So there's a field on the import files table. Let me go. Okay. Let's go to import files. Let's go back. Okay, so there's a field on the import. It gets created automatically for you. Okay, as part of the setup. And it is commented, and basically it drives the process to say, hey, where's the import configuration table? What's the import configuration group? So all the records that I kind of showed you that we created, all this argument, this variable does is sort of tell our process where to find everything. So when our process gets the message, it'll know, oh yeah, here's the configuration table, this is the import files table, and this is the config to use, and here's, so it gives it all the message that it needs. And again, it was automatically set up as part of the installation. So I'm pretty much good to go now. Let me just check that again. Let me just check this again. So easy file importer. Just want to make sure I have all the okay, all the right info inside the message. Actually, I'm missing one thing. I'm going to say when any file change. So when the file gets loaded, so we want to say when the file is not equal to the value blank. So when we add a file to import into the table, it'll change the record, which will kick off the notification. And as long as the file name is not blank, we're going to send it to our process down here with all the arguments. So I think that's about all I needed to do. That's it. Okay. All right. So now to run this and go back to, again, I'll go back to the configuration group table because it's just easier to navigate from there. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. So this is my configuration record, right? And again, if I go back in here, my configuration and my import file. So all I'm going to do now is go to my import file and choose it. I'm going to choose it, and it should kick the process off. So choose that file, save and close, and now I can monitor it. I can monitor it also from here. So if we refresh, so there we go. So the process completed, right? And it processed 26 records from sheet 1. And so now if I go to my assets table, which was blank, it's full now with all those records, right? So this is essentially this Excel sheet, right? Inside my assets table. And if we just go back to the configuration group again, and we look at this in the import files area, right? You'll see this is the log that I spoke about. This tells you when it was processed, how many were processed, the start and end time, etc. Right, so that's where the run details are. All right. So I wanted to show, just since I have a little bit of time, right? I just want to show you a couple other little nice things, niceties that we have that you can take advantage of also potentially. So I'm going to, let's show you, let me go back to configuration, and I'm going to add, so if I go to my configuration now, right, I'm going to add another field mapping, right? So I can add a field mapping for column N. There isn't the column N is blank in the sheet. So I'm going to send that to, a field 1033, but you know what? I'm going to have it default the value in this. I'm going to say testing 1, 2, 3. So, oops. So I can actually, I added a mapping right here. So these are all the standard mappings from the Excel sheet, but this one, N, is write a value. So basically we're going to default the value inside a column, right? That isn't in the sheet, but we want to have some data in there. So if we run it again, if I go back to my configuration, right here, and I go back to my import files, all right, and I choose the file again, and again, choosing the file triggers the process. So adding the file in again, like I just did, and saving the record fires the process off. So there we go. It kicked it off with a notification, and if we just refresh, there we go. It's the process completed. Now, if we go look at our assets records now, and I go look at one of these, you're going to see there's a field. So this is 1033, like I put in the, and it's just putting testing 1, 2, 3 in every record. So that was a way to sort of default the value that isn't in a spreadsheet that you might want to have inside as part of the import. So that's one little nicety. And I also want to show you another thing quick. So if I bring you back to my spreadsheet, it does have multiple tabs. So I have all my data, and actually I'm going to add a row, and we're going to add another. We're going to use a second tab, and I'm going to load another table with this tab. So I'm going to re-import and update, and basically add new records here from this tab to a new table. So let me go back here. I want to add a new record first, just to show you that it adds records not only, if they don't exist, right? Because basically it's updating in place for the most part because of the key in column B. But maybe we want to have new records come in.
So Todd, on your second import, it updated all 26 records, right?
Yes, it updated, and you know what? And there wasn't really any new data.
Right, so it didn't add any.
It kind of, yeah. But
Cool.
we can do that. I'm going to do that as part of this import. So let me put this new row in. So we're going to see that we're going to add a new row. Employee. Let's just put this employee workstation. PC with monitor, present. Okay, and then it's just want to get some relevant information. So it's an HP Spectra model. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then serial number, whatever, and the date of purchase, say 22. Vendor was CSE, and then online. So I'm adding a record to my spreadsheet, right? So we're going to show, like Keith mentioned, and actually, you know what I'll do? Let me update the purchase date for all of these to be 9/28, right? 9/28/2022, and we'll see that all those dates get changed. Let's just take that, go down the whole. Okay, all right, so it puts a bunch of different dates in there. That's fine. So it goes into October, but we'll see that all these dates get changed, and then a new record gets added, and then a new table will be loaded. And I'll show you that. So let me save this and move this over. And I'll show you that new test table I added is right here, and it's blank. It's just 2 fields, right? And then my assets table, you'll notice like a lot of the purchase dates, which I just updated to today and in the future, are all old, 2019, 2020, 2003, etc. Right? So we should see all these change and a new record come in. All right, so let's just go to configuration group. And again, our configuration is good. Actually, no, I'm going to have to add a new configuration. I'm going to have to add, because I have that second tab, right? So the second tab, right, this is going to be the test table import, right? And the target, so it's test, the target table is called test. The target DBID, again, like Matthew said, if we take this and open it in a new tab, we can grab that DBID quick. It's right here. So I'll do that. So that's my DB ID of my test table. The tab does not have a header, so I'm not going to say it has a header. So there's no header row. We're doing a mapping by column letter, and we'll do that in a sec. So no header row, and sheet number is 2, so it's the second sheet. All right, so I'm just going to save that, and then I'm going to come over. I don't need any data offset again. The data starts at row 1, and then my mappings. Right, so I'm going to do A, column A goes to field 6, right, and because it only has 2 table, it only has 2 fields, and then column B goes to field 7. Okay, so now I'm ready to import that. The configuration is done. If I go back again to my configuration group, I have 2 configurations now. My assets table, which again will update in place, change all those dates, add that new record I added, and then it will import into the new table with the second tab. All right, so if we go fire it by adding our file to the import files table, right, which I changed around, so that's the right one, and I just save and close. So now it should kick the process off, and it'll do an update of the records, and here it goes. So it did the first process, or the first part of the process, did 27 records, meaning it updated 26 and added 1. And then it also added 6 rows to the test table. So if I go look at my assets, right, now you'll see pretty much that the date should correspond to all those dates I put into the Excel sheet if I ever come back here. And then the test table, let's see, maybe we'll go to the test table first. Let's see. So here's okay, yeah. So the test table was loaded, 6 records, right here. And then the assets table, we'll try to get that to come up. Here we go. The assets table now has all those new dates, right? Starting from the 28th and going into October, etc. So it added that new record. It should have added that new record. Where'd it go? Here it is. The new record's right here. Employee workstation, PC with monitor, HP. So it added that, updated all the other ones, and here's the date of that record. So so that in a nutshell is our easy file import. I didn't want to get too crazy. There is more capabilities, and we'll actually probably have a part 2.
Yeah.
But in the interest of time, I kind of wanted to stop here. Take any questions. See if anybody is interested. I can certainly show more if you wanted. So
I definitely think we're going to be coming back for a part 2, because there's some more advanced features here that would take a little bit more time. One thing I wanted to touch upon, Todd, if you wouldn't mind, if you go back into your spreadsheet for a second.
Sure.
I just kind of want to mention something that James, who I think is on this call, taught me, and I think it's really great for clients to know. You map this by column letter, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Yes.
The other option was to do it by name.
Right.
And that was by like the header names.
Correct.
And occasionally that might be the better option if someone were to say add a new column. So if you were to add a new column between B and C,
right,
all of a sudden your mappings are all one off.
Correct.
Where if you have it by name, it actually will still know which one to grab because it's looking for that exact name.
Yes. Yeah, that may be the better way to do it. I agree. Yeah, it was easier for me to type that way.
Yeah, of course.
Otherwise, I would have to type category, asset number, and remember, would have.
Now we would have
I'd still be doing it.
We would also be
the way I type
your spelling. So yeah, but that's just one way that I know.
Yeah, no, you're right. Good point. Good point.
That's one way to mention.
Absolutely.
And Todd, you don't have to edit the same record that you keep uploading the file to. You just did that to show the different activities that happen each time. So you could have done add new file so that you can keep track of all of the files that you've uploaded in the past.
Right, so you mean, okay, so you're right, that's a good point. So if I go to my configuration group, I could have done add import
Right.
file, right? And choose it, right?
Yep.
And
Just so you
say
can have
save and close. You're
on.
right, that's a good point, because maybe it's another day, a week later, whatever.
Right.
Yep.
And I probably should then show a little bit better, more information on the import files, but so here it is. This is the one I just added at 241, and it shows again that I processed, but obviously the test table. So the test table, the records were added again because I didn't have a key, right? And it's just record ID, and the tab inside the spreadsheet is just the dump of data, so it just added it again. Unlike the assets table, this did an update in place again, but obviously nothing really changed, so it's all the same. And
Right.
Then the other benefit you have there too is
Right,
when you
yeah.
add another record,
yeah,
you can associate the record ID of the import file to every record that was imported, so that you can say, all right, these 26 records that were added from file number 1, you can filter those out so you know exactly which records were added by which file.
exactly, because because of that, you're right, because in the configuration,
In the mapping, right?
I said,
Oh, right.
use this field to tell me what file was, what record, or what file the record was processed within. So as fields get added and updated, we're going to use that new mapping, that new file that came in, and update the field on the record to know, hey, this just got updated from this file.
Right. Well, I know Warren's been patiently waiting with his hand raised, so we'll go to you, Warren.
Okay, great. Well, hey, this is interesting, to say the least. I'm a QSP. I've got a customer that has their customers sending in Excel spreadsheets for monthly data that needs to be uploaded into Quickbase.
Right.
And they've got a group of different customers, maybe 20 or 30 or different customers with everything is being manually uploaded, of course, with an Excel spreadsheet going into Quickbase. So this obviously is a real interesting option. The question I've got though is, on the automation process, do you have to, how do you link this, or how do you make it into an automated process so that the customer, first off, doesn't have to manually do the uploads themselves? It could be sent in by the customer, and then it would automatically get loaded into the system, and the system would start the process up. And then is there a way, the second question is there a way to basically have a holding table that allows my customer to see the data once it's uploaded, and then be able to manually say, okay, that's okay, that looks good, I'll dump it into the real table. Is there any way to kind of play those two things?
Right. So as far as the automation, I have another customer, happens to be a law firm, where they have a lot of time-based data that they need to pump into Quickbase. So they get an extract from another system. I forgot the name of it. The legal field, actually, it's common in the legal field. It sends an email with an attachment of the Excel sheet of all the time data. And basically we have another add-on called the email parser that will take that. So once the email comes over, our email parser is constantly monitoring a particular mailbox specific to the customer, right? Once that mail hits, it pulls the attachment out, and it would actually import it. It would write it right to the import files table, which would then automatically kick off our importation process and load the table. So that's a way to do it, where it's just email based, and a lot of times you can automate these emails with these attachments, so it can really be sort of a complete hands-off process.
That's great. That sounds great. Yeah. And to my second point, though, is there another way? I mean, again, this is beyond what you're talking today about, but is there a way to basically have a holding table and then be able to take that data from the holding table, have the customer review it, and then be able to import it in? Because again, remember, it's their customers putting in the data, and so they don't want to just automatically dump it into the table directly from their customer, because they could, anything could happen with the customer's data. Right. So they want to review it first before they then dump it into their system.
Yeah, so I would say maybe another set of configurations. The first one would actually pump it to this other table you mentioned. And then if you notice that, they do the check and see that everything is okay. You would then fire it again, but this would be another configuration that maybe is controlled by whoever does the actual publishing of this data.
Yeah.
They can kick that off to go to the live table, if you will. So it's, to me, it's just a different set of configurations, maybe.
Okay, well, that's
That
interesting.
might be
Yeah,
one
yeah.
option, you know, because then, so you can make it, you can let it be all automated that way. Obviously, pipelines would do it too, but, you know, in lieu of that, you know, and
Yeah.
having to build that out, you know, having multiple configurations that say, yeah, pump this to a triage table, holding table with these configurations. Once it's good, then you can click another button that'll actually run the import to the real
Okay.
live table. So
You know, the other option is it can still go to the live table, but you can put a static value in a field to say these records are on hold. So then you can have a report to list all
Oh.
of those records that are on hold and then just release them. So then, you know,
yeah,
Well, that's
or
interesting.
delete
I
it.
mean, that could be one of your blank tables or blank fields. That you basically
Exactly.
put something in and say,
Right.
yeah,
you can
Okay.
put a constant value. You
That's
can do a
interesting,
field
yeah.
mapping with a constant value.
Yeah.
And
On
it could be
hold.
status. It could be a status field. Put
No,
on
that's
hold.
interesting. I like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, on hold. Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah, so that, yeah, then if it was done incorrectly, you would know the records that you need to delete
Mhm.
No, I like that. Okay.
and clean up.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah. No problem.
Question. Thanks for asking. All right. So got a bunch of other folks in here. If anyone else has any questions about Easy File Importer or any of our other add-ons, please feel free to ask away. We still have a couple more minutes of our allotted time.
So it's Tom Peters. So we have a program that basically we track loans that we're working on. And when we're all done, we close. We have a closing statement and we have the final underwriting that are all in Excel. And I would like to capture those two data out of those two spreadsheets and make a permanent record. So it would be non-deletable like spreadsheets are. And so my understanding is that I could import those, and the next time I wanted to do another loan, I could import it and it would be a record added to a table. And then those records could be associated with the master index or the, through a relation. I see where that would work. So I guess the question boils down to, can you get this all functioning where the user is just, when they're ready to import, they type in the name of the spreadsheet and the location and hit the button and the program does it? Because these might be real smart loan underwriters, but they're real dumb when it comes to moving around a database.
Honestly, I think, Tom, I think there's a lot of flexibility with how we could set it up, for sure.
Okay.
Right? I'm just showing you like the real basic way to do this. I think just put
Yeah.
it in the inputs, but you're right.
That's the way I was reading it, probably
Yeah,
was.
you can
So
drive it. You can drive it from any table. And I don't know if you
Yeah.
mentioned remember when I did the installation, it did ask me, it said, do you have a table already that you want to use? I said no, because I'm setting up a brand
right.
new app,
Yeah.
but you know, you could point it at another table where you know that file's going to be, and then control it heavily, you know, by
Yeah.
permissions, by
Right.
anybody else?
Yeah, no, this is great. This is actually what I was kind of looking to ultimately do. So
Okay, good.
That's great, Tom.
Yeah.
Definitely reach out to us if you have questions.
yeah, I will.
And do remember, we do have a part 2 coming next week where we're going to let Todd, or maybe the week after, but we'll let Todd go through, you know, some more in-depth versions of this as well, because we do have many other features we haven't talked about, as Todd just mentioned. So last call for questions. Sounds like we're pretty much there. So in that case, you know, it's about 8 minutes left. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. For those of you who may be in line for Hurricane Ian, stay safe. And thank you all for joining us. And for another office hours section, we will be here next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time again. So thank you all again. There's a survey at the end. Please fill it out if you can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone. Thank you.